It's been 5 years and your fave is still problematic. They've been called out, dragged, and read from the corner of Twitter to the depths of Tumblr. And finally, as the damage to their brand is just on the horizon, they finally say the 2 words that you've been wanting to hear: I'm sorry. Once they've said that, it doesn't matter if they've said something problematic on Monday. If they've apologized by Tuesday, on Wednesday, you better accept their apology and take their word that they mean it. You know, social media has really allowed call-out culture to incubate to a point where whether you're a YouTuber or a Grammy Award-winning actor, you owe a quick and speedy apology to your audience, or else. Usually the assumption that comes with these apologies is that the people apologizing are working towards understanding why what they said was wrong. But let's be real. If these people said these things confidently, it's unlikely that they were coming from a place of understanding to begin with. While we'd like to believe that these social media personalities and celebrities are ideologically pure, the reality is that they're not unlike every other person who's been socialized in a society that often downplays or minimizes the struggles of certain groups of people. Because of that, truly understanding their struggles is an ongoing process that can't always be learned within 48 hours of the offense. I've been on YouTube for a very long time. And through that time, I've said and done some things that today are in complete conflict with my worldviews and morality. If you saw some of my older videos, you might not even recognize me because of the language that I used and the types of oppression that I weaponized. But I had the benefit of being a relatively unknown YouTuber when most of these videos were made. So back then, I wasn't put into a situation where I was pressured to apologize to my audience for some of the rude and disgusting things that I said. However, I know that if someone told me to apologize for those things back then, the most I could say would be, I'm sorry if you were offended. And it wouldn't really be an apology that came from understanding why I was wrong, but one fabricated to calm down an angry mob. This isn't to say that my critics wouldn't be justified in their anger, but in my opinion, pressuring people into giving performative apologies often results in a false one. I'm a person who blogs a lot about social justice, and because of that, people assume that I'm informed and educated about all types of oppression. But I'm not. I thought that I had a basic understanding about anti-Semitism, but years ago, I made a lot of what I now understand are some anti-Semitic comments. I even dismissively said everything's anti-Semitic when being criticized for what I said. And these are some comments that have followed me for quite some time, and when people bring them up, I still get pretty defensive. For a while, it felt like people were really taking a few minor passing comments and making them into something much larger than they were. I thought to myself, I'm not a bad person, and despite what these people are saying, I don't hate Jewish people. But what I didn't understand about anti-Semitism is that a common anti-Semitic trope is that Jewish people overreact to the smallest offenses. That exclusion of Judaism from conversations about oppression is anti-Semitism. That all too often social justice conversations only bring up Jewish people in the context of either unfairly owning narratives of genocide or sitting on the role of the oppressor. Both of these scenarios downplay anti-Semitism in a space that, in theory, is about fighting against oppression. One of the ways that I had discussed Jewish people conflated Jewish identity with whiteness, which on one hand erases Jewish people of color, and on another overlooks that Jewish people, whether white or white passing, still experience anti-Semitism through their lives. Before I actually spoke to a Jewish person about anti-Semitism, I believed that it was something blatant like a neo-Nazi spray painting a swastika on a synagogue. But what I realized is that we live in a society that often downplays anti-Semitism, where people on the left call people on the right Nazis and never once mention Jewish people, all while arguing that they're the more virtuous side. When I was accused of being anti-Semitic, the first thing I thought was that I wasn't. And then I realized through these conversations that if any part of me was anti-Semitic and didn't want to be, that the most important thing for me to do was not only to listen to the people who felt that I was, but to have an ongoing dialogue with them. Not just one conversation where I'm told the right things to say to save my brand. And this isn't to say that I'll never say anything anti-Semitic again, or that I've alleviated myself of all of my anti-Semitic positions. It is, however, to say that I'm learning. And in my opinion, That's more important in the long run than giving a shallow apology and making the same exact mistake a week later. I'm still not done understanding every criticism that frames me as anti-Semitic, but I feel more genuinely that the things I said were wrong, and upon understanding, I'm sorry that they were said. The people that wanted my apologies had valid reasons for wanting them, and I want to make it clear that you shouldn't be afraid to call out someone who's doing something oppressive. But ask yourself, what's more important in the long run? An ongoing commitment to changing the biases that inspired the misstep, or an empty apology constructed to silence future dissent? In my opinion, we're living in a time where people are too eager to pressure people into premature, performative apologies that carry little value and do nothing in the long run. A change in action that comes from a genuine understanding and a continued dialogue with the community that they've insulted says so much more. It's easier to say I'm sorry than it is to actually be sorry. Oh, and it's hard to take your apologies seriously when it's just the introduction to a makeup haul.